Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today I thought we would talk about progressive overload, which is one of the fundamental principles of exercise, of strength training, of any kind of fitness adaptation that you're looking to get. I thought specifically I'd talk about a few of the myths of progressive overload that I've seen floating about the internet. So if you're a trained gym vet, maybe you'll get something out of this video. And also if you're a beginner, you're gonna learn something that we absolutely need to know as we move into the world of fitness, in particular going to the gym. So I thought let's start by getting a definition of what progressive overload actually is. And essentially we can go all the way back to Milo of Croton. You tell me, which pronunciation are we using? They were a legendary Grecian Italian hero. Legend has it that Milo put a newborn bull on their back, and as the bull grew, Milo had to lift progressively heavier until eventually they were lifting a full-grown bull. This is the origin of the concept of progressive overload. So gradually increasing the stimulus that we're putting on our body until we're able to do something amazing like lifting a bull or fighting a bear in a forest, you know, whatever you want to go for. Progressive overload can really be summed up in the phrase, if you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got. And that is by Coach John Bauer Sr. Because essentially progressive overload is the systematic and progressive implementation of increased training load. We're exposing ourselves or the athletes that we're coaching to higher training loads over time. As we get more advanced and our training age increases, or the amount of time that we've been training increases, then we will need more training load in order to get more adaptation. And while it's really important that we do continue to increase the stimulus that's placed on our body, it's really important to remember throughout this video that the training load and capacity that you're going to put on yourself is going to be completely different to somebody else's. Our ability to tolerate loads or training or any stimulus that we put on ourselves is so highly individualized. So please don't beat yourself up if your training looks different to somebody else's. And that brings me into the first myth of progressive overload. Now that we have a rough idea of what it is, it's progressively making things harder. The first myth is that the only way that we can do this in the gym is by increasing the weight that we put on the bar or increasing the weight that we lift. And that's just not true. There are so many ways that we can progress the intensity of our training, and weight is just one of them. We can increase the frequency of how often we train. So instead of training 3 times a week, we can change it into 4 times a week. We can change the density of how often we change. And that means the amount of sessions in a certain period of time. So instead of training once a day, maybe we could increase that to 2 times per day. We would mostly use that one with athletes though, not so much beginners at the gym. You can make things harder by decreasing the rest interval. If you have a longer amount of time to rest, you have more ability for your body to recover. So if you decrease that rest, you make things more challenging and more taxing on your body. You can increase the number of sets that you do, the number of repetitions of an exercise. And then of course, you can increase the intensity or the weight. And that would look like increasing the percentage of the rep max that you'd be lifting, but it could also look like moving from a 2 kilo dumbbell to a 4 kilo dumbbell. It doesn't have to be as stringent or as set in stone. Another really common way of progressing the intensity of our training at the gym is actually by increasing the technical demand. So what that might look like is instead of doing a goblet squat as a starting out exercise, you would move into a barbell back squat. If you're a pro at a barbell back squat, maybe you move into a front squat, or maybe you move into Olympic lifting. And by increasing the technicality, that is also increasing the intensity and the strain on our bodies. Increasing the sets and reps is a way of increasing the volume of our training, but there's other ways that we can do that too. We can increase the duration of training. So instead of a 60-minute session, maybe we go to a 90-minute session. We can increase the distance traveled if we're sprinters or runners. Or instead of doing a 2-minute tempo run, we could do a 3-minute tempo run. The possibilities are endless. So you see, increasing the weight is only one way that we can build up that intensity. There are so many other options. And I really wanted to focus on this myth to start with, because I know so many of us, when we go to the gym, we want to see that weight increase, right? We want to see progression in that way. We want to feel stronger. But sometimes that weight is not going to move up. And so instead of beating ourselves up, I want you to try and recenter and focus on all of these other ways that the intensity might be increasing. Maybe when you first started off, you could only handle 2 sets of a back squat, and now you're doing 4 sets or 5 sets. Just because that weight hasn't increased, your body is able to tolerate so much more. And that is still within the realms of progression. That's still showing that you're getting stronger and more capable. And that is another wonderful thing to focus on. The second myth about progression progressive overload is that it is linear. And what I mean by that is that I commonly see people online talking about progressive overload in that every session you go to the gym, you have to increase the weight that you're using. So every single session, your training load's gonna look like this, or every week, it's going to go higher and higher and higher. And this is just fundamentally incorrect. This violates the tenets of periodization, which is another fundamental principle for our exercise and our training. Periodization means that we put planned periods of rest in our training because our body simply can't tolerate going up, 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 up. Imagine if we could increase or improve at what we're doing every single time we're at the gym. We would all be Olympic athletes, right? Because there's just no stopping. We're just going all the way up. It doesn't work like that, and our bodies don't respond to stress in that way. In order for us to continuously move up, it would require us to work at our maximum capacity against progressively harder and increasing training loads. That method can be used for a really short amount of time, but it is not sustainable. If we use linear loading, which really doesn't exist or shouldn't exist. If we use linear loading for a long amount of time, that's where we lead to burnout. That's where we're putting ourselves at higher risk of injuries, and overtraining might even occur. I've got videos about overtraining if you want to learn about it in a bit more detail, but it's essentially not a place that we want to be. So instead of continuously going up and up and up every session, we need to plan periods of rest. So what this might look like is if you go to the gym 3 times a week, maybe Monday and Tuesday are really hard sessions, but on Thursday, you have a lighter session, or you make things a little bit more relaxed. You're still getting your body moving, but you're not going up, up, up. Maybe you're going up, up, drop, up, drop. We need those periods of rest to allow our body to recover. We're gonna get a little bit more technical here, but this is the general adaptation syndrome. And you can see this is how our body responds to any kind of stimulus or stress that is new. So we go through a phase where there is a dip in our performance, and then eventually our performance super compensates, or it moves higher above our baseline. If we continuously put a higher and higher stimulus on our bodies, we never move out of that initial dip because we don't allow ourselves time to recover. Our body needs that recovery in order to make those future gains. So instead of increasing the work that you're doing every single session and feeding yourself into oblivion, maybe we could increase it week on week. Like I said, we'd use variations of heavy and light days to try and minimize the accumulated fatigue. But even if you're increasing week on week, we need to implement rest. So what this might look like is step loading, and I've mentioned this in a few other videos, but you would go up week 1, up week 2, up week 3, and then on week 4, you would deload or bring that training load right back down to around week 1 or week 2 levels. And that way, your body has a period of rest. So that's kind of the second myth. Oh, sunshine. It is super bright, but I'm soaking up every bit of sun. You guys can see how pale I am right now. I need the sunshine, so you know what? Lighting beef up. The last myth that I consistently see in regards to progressive overload is that we should be training to failure. And that is, like I mentioned, because in order to continuously make progress like that, you're going to have to work at your maximum capacity. And training to failure, I literally have spent a whole video talking about why that is not the best thing that we should be doing, but I'll sum it up for you here. When we do repetition maximum training, or you push and max out every single session, you decrease your power and you decrease your strength. If another sport is your main focus, is not what we want. Not to mention the increased risk of injury, burnout, and overtraining. So those are a few of the myths that I've seen floating around the internet in regards to progressive overload. I hope that has given you a little bit more information about what exactly it is and how we can actually progress ourselves in the gym. I've just come back from a hip replacement, so for me, increasing the weight isn't the only way that I'm seeing progress. I'm seeing progress by having less pain when I'm doing day-to-day activities, by taking more steps. That's a way of progressively overloading my body, and that's not just about the weight that I'm lifting. So that is why in so many of the videos that I've made, I highly recommend writing down notes about your sessions, writing down how you feel, because even if you feel differently about one session from one week to the next week, that is a way of your body showing you that it is adapting to the stress that you're putting on it. You're getting stronger and more capable. So if you don't see the weight increase, guys, it's not the end of the world. I am so proud of you guys for clicking on this video or for staying active and getting into the gym. I hope you all have the most amazing day ahead. If you have any questions, drop them down below and I will get to them as soon as I can. Let me know if you like this style of video, guys, where I just kind of, well, word vomit. I would love to know your thoughts. And I would love to know how you are overloading your body or how you're training your body. What kind of stimulus are you putting upon it? What new stuff do you do in order to make sure you progress? And importantly, what do you do to make sure you recover or drop those loads occasionally so that your body has the time to respond to all the fatigue we're putting upon it and come back stronger, super compensate, better than ever. Have an amazing week ahead, everybody, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys.